I need to check with the members to see if anyone has a conflict of interest with anything on the agenda this evening. Ken?
No.
Art?
No.
Tony?
No.
Joe, are you out there? Okay, Joe is not here. Tim does not have a conflict of interest. Next up, minutes. I saw them. Dave, did everybody else see the minutes?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I'm looking for a motion to approve the minutes for 5/18 select board meeting as circulated.
So moved.
Moved by Ken, second by Tony. Any discussion, addition, or corrections on the minutes for May 18? Hearing none, the question is, do we approve the minutes for May 18 as circulated? Ken?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Tim votes yes. Those minutes are approved by a vote of 4-0-0. Can I ask who is on the phone with us?
Mike Yanati.
Mike United, very
Mike
good.
Paul.
Okay. And Mike Foley, I see you. Give me 1 second here and I will. Let everyone see Mike Yanati's name. Okay, warrants. Okay. I have payroll warrant 24, and pardon me as I lean in to read the amount, $23,072.33.
So moved.
Moved by Tony, second by Art. Any discussion on the payroll? Question is, do we approve payroll warrant number 24? Ken?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Tim votes yes. Payroll warrant 24. $23,072.33 is approved 4-0-0. Did we have another warrant?
Yeah, check warrant 31. You should have got it this morning.
I don't have it. Do you have it?
Well, 1 second. Drop it way off here for a second.
Oh, it was in the Dropbox, I bet, wasn't it?
I'm not sure if I put it in the Dropbox. So hold on 1 second.
Yeah, I do not believe I got that. It may have gone to my spam, but I don't remember getting it.
Okay, let me try and resend it after I can, because it's not letting me get into my scans at the moment. So I'll work on that and we can come back to it in a minute if you want.
Okay. We'll move on from warrants, go to announcements. Does anyone have any announcements? I will mention again that the Board of Civil Authority has decided that in order to enforce social distancing at the upcoming August and November elections, we've got to move to a larger venue than the firehouse, and it was decided that that venue is the North Road Garage, Public Works Garage. And so that is going to happen. You will be hearing more about that. We have also decided as part of that happening that we will try to encourage everyone who can to vote absentee, which you can do in Vermont without reason. And you can go to the Secretary of State website, the My Voter page, and request an absentee ballot. You can link that page from shaftsburyvt.gov also. And the request will go immediately to our town clerk, Marlene Hall. Ballots will not be available until 45 days before the election, however. Okay, any public comments? So any member of the public called in who wishes to make a comment?
Tim, I have some comments regarding the roadside commercial, but I don't know if they should be made during that portion of the meeting or should they be made now?
During that portion of the meeting. I'm glad to see you and Mike here. So yes, you can enter into discussion with the select board at that time.
Okay.
Okay, item 7 is Treasurer's Report, and I see Melanie Dexter. And I have your cash flow report coming up.
Okay.
I wish I knew how to do this in fewer clicks, but so far the answer seems to be 8.
Okay. Well, that's tiny on my screen. Okay. I mean, we don't need to worry about the detail too much anyway. I think most of this we saw at the last meeting. There hasn't been all that much more of interest since then. If you want to go down to the bottom line is the important part. It shows that we've got $173,000 in the bank, give or take, as of today. And that's going to see us through the end of this month, I think, pretty well. We are expecting another 50,000, give or take, from full reconciliation. So we should be in good shape for the end of the year. If you want to take a quick look at the reserve funds, unless you have any questions about that. At the bottom, you can see how we're doing versus budget. We're looking very similar to last year. If you want to slide it over just a little bit, yeah, you can see that we're at just shy of budgeted revenue. We'll probably make that up with the transfer station cash if I ever can get to the bank again. And our expenses are just a smidge below last year, which is from all the belt tightening we've been doing lately, I think. But all of that, they're small amounts, but they're important this time of year. Have any questions about any of that? Okay, so let's look at the reserve funds real quick. I think all they're going to show you pretty much is water payments are coming in. There are water bills out there right now. Okay, yeah, basically you see that 17,000 there. That's just water money coming in. Plus we did not roll over a water truck CD, so that money is in there too. So that's at the 260 line. So quite a bit of that is from that truck, and the balance of it is water payments that are coming in. Those other numbers in the debits line are just money that was due to the general fund getting returned to it. So the other, any questions about any of that? That's pretty standard. The other spreadsheet I gave you was my calculations for the line of credit application. And I just wanted to walk you through really quickly the assumptions that I made for the line of credit. We'll probably have the paperwork for the next meeting. And I took it I was much more careful with it this year just because there's so many question marks. So what you see here is what I'm going to tell them is our expected cash flow for the next, basically for the whole year, just to show, I don't show it here, but just show when we zero out and when we would need to start making draws on that line of credit. And I gave you last year's or this current fiscal year's actuals to compare to what I'm projecting. So the assumptions I'm making are that the big one is that I'm expecting tax money to come in much later than last year because of the delay with getting the education tax rates and things. But I am projecting that it will be a normal year for tax collection. I'm not putting in some kind of a guess for delinquent taxes because it would be based on nothing. So, so the only thing I'm doing for the big thing I'm doing is anticipating that taxes will be late. So that affects the cash flow and when we'll need to make draws, but it doesn't affect the end of the year totals. I'm also assuming that education rates will be similar to last year. I don't have any way of knowing that, but it doesn't affect our budget. It would just make that November number would go up and on both the receipt and expense side. The reason you're seeing the same number for expenses throughout the year is I discussed that with Dave, and he thought that was a fair guess, that we don't have any months that we're anticipating to be really strange, other than the month when we're collecting taxes. And in December, you see that we're making the transfers to the reserve accounts and the community appropriations. And other than that, all I'm doing is just assuming. I can't make any guesses about how the virus is going to affect receipts, so they're just not in there. So what I'm going to do is ask the bank to give us the largest line of credit they're willing to give us, and hope that we won't use any more than we usually do. And I think that's actually a fair assumption. It's just the question is when the money is going to come in. I wanted to run this by you guys just so you see what my thinking is. I think some other towns are trying to guess how this year will be different from other years, and it would just be a guess. It would not be based on anything. So that's why I didn't bake that into the cake. But I wanted to make sure you saw it if you had any questions about my thinking.
Go ahead.
I saw Governor Scott press conference the other day, and they asked him what he thought that the all was going to be for the year. He said that he had told all of his departments figure at about a 10%. If that helps any.
Yeah, I've seen that number floating around. I don't know whether that's across the board. I don't know whether it would be more or less for our town. And again, it really would just affect the numbers you see in November. If they come in lower, then they go out lower. I think it probably wouldn't affect
This
our
conference will
requirements.
now be recorded.
It probably wouldn't affect the requirements for the line of credit, which is the only thing I'm using this for. I mean,
Remind me
I've
what
heard
the
that set number two. I'm sorry.
the knowns are here in terms of the delays. You said the delay of the education fund. I've lost the bubble on.
The education rates, they have not. We can't send out tax bills until Montpelier comes up with the education rates, and they've got some holes they need to plug. But I think that they're looking to plug them with I know that they're looking to plug them with something other than property taxes. So it's probably not going to affect us, but it's going to make everything's later. The amounts will probably not be affected, but the time will be. So that's why you see in October, I'm only guessing, last year in October, we had over $2 million in tax receipts. And this year, I'm only anticipating 500,000 of that.
It is our intention to collect town taxes and education taxes if we know them at the usual time, correct?
That's correct, yes. But when we usually get them out, I've been trying to get them out as early as I can. You see, last year we got $750,000 in September. In theory, I don't have to get the tax bills out until 1 month before they're due. So in theory, the tax bills, even this year, could go out October 6th. I'm hoping to get them out much earlier than that, but stuff happens. The towns that are really affected by this are the ones that have multiple installments for their taxes, which we're really lucky to have only one. That's throwing, especially towns that collect 4 times a year. You can't imagine the mess that they're facing. We're lucky in that regard. So I'm expecting them to go out late, but we won't have to, I mean, later than usual, but not in such a way as it will affect our due date.
So the asking for the larger amount from the line of credit is just in an abundance of caution. We don't have any prediction about what that will be yet.
Right. It's just.
And were you
sorry,
asking for the line of credit earlier than normal or at the normal time?
We always get it as close to July. We always get the line of credit as close to July 1st as we can. We don't always make our first draw that early, but we always want to have the money available. You know, if a truck needs repairs, or there's something that happens with needing to spend a lot of money in August, if there's a tornado or something, we need to be able to have cash. That's it doesn't affect our budget. It's just the cash timing. You see, those expense numbers are just a guess. Yep.
Melanie, what's the amount that you've asked for in the past? 3 million?
300,000 about.
Oh, 300,000 is all?
Yeah. Last year, I think we drew 100,000. The year before, I believe we drew the entire 300,000. I don't think that in my tenure we've had more than 300,000, but I was going to talk to my contacts and see if they'd be willing to extend it to 500,000 with the assumption that we would not draw any more than our usual amount. I don't know how they feel about that.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, I think I just figured it out. What you're trying to tell me is that because the education taxes won't be known until later time, people won't be mailing in their taxes for town and education until a later time. And
Right, we will
connecting the
out.
dots that we do with the line of credit might have to kick in earlier. Okay.
That's right. Yep.
I'd like to see the tax bills go out as early as they can.
Yeah.
This virus is, a lot of people having trouble with money, so.
I always get them out the day I can get them out.
Oh, I appreciate that.
No, I know. I mean, I'm just saying, you and me both. I want to get them out as early as possible.
Yep.
For so many reasons, but that's an important one. But there's the sort of domino effect. You can't do the grand list without knowing. Well, I mean, it's just all of these steps that have to happen in turn, and the very last one is the education rates, and can't do anything without that.
Right.
Okay. So, any other questions about this? If not,
Okay.
then I can go ahead and approach the bank with my numbers, and I'll have the paperwork for you at the next meeting.
All right, sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Melanie.
Melanie.
Yep. actually, I think, Dave, were we going to talk about a couple of policies too?
Yeah, Tim, if we could move a couple of things up, as with Melanie here, we were talking about the audit policy and the interfund transfer policy.
Yes, without objection. We will talk about whatever Dave and Melanie want to talk about. Do you want to bring those up or you just want to describe them?
You can bring them up if you want. They're both very old policies, one from 98 and one from 92. They're just not the current procedures and not the procedures that our professional auditors want us to use. They have not commented on these. They've been pretty much ignoring them. As you know now, we have a professional auditor every year, Sullivan and Powers. The things that are said in here, we don't follow. We do these more than every 3 years and every 6 years like this talks about. So this policy, I think, should just be voided. You should just remove it.
I make the motion, we void this policy.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Art to void the existing audit policy, seconded by Ken. Discussion? Question? The question is, do we void the audit policy? Ken?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Tim votes yes. So the audit policy is voided by a vote of 4-0-0. Remind me what the other one was, Dave?
Interfund transfer policy. This dates back to 1992. It deals with things like the selectman's clerk and procedures, how to pass these along. These are again reviewed by our professional auditors every year. They, like our system, it's covered in our manuals that we're putting together for each position. So this again is just an outdated policy that doesn't even refer to the right people anymore. So it just needs to be expunged from this book.
Yeah, it talks about having pre-approval for any of the transfers that are completely standard. I do them several times a month, and I don't think it's feasible, and it's certainly not something that our professional auditors are looking for.
I make the motion, we also get rid of this.
So we have a motion from Mark to revoke the interfund transfer policy,
Second.
second by Ken. Discussion? Hearing none, the question is, do we revoke the interfund transfer policy? Ken?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Tim votes yes. So the interfund transfer policy is revoked by a vote of 4-0-0. Do you want to do more, Dave, here, or do you want to?
The rest can wait till the end. They're just really simple things that we've already discussed.
All right.
The regular place of the meeting.
Trying to find my agenda. There it is. Okay. Thank you, Melanie. Item 8 is emergency manager's report.
Okay, Paul is unable to attend tonight, so I'll do his. But Tim, just for a moment, I try to email you. I had to take pictures of the warrant, try and get them to you because I cannot do everything with my computer off its dock. So if the pictures don't work, if you don't get them in a few minutes, then when the PC issue comes up, I'm going to go offline so I can get this over to you. But something's blocking it when I'm set up like
Okay.
this.
While you talk, I will download them. I see them in my email.
Oh, okay. The basic report for the emergency manager is just this. It is, if I can get this up there. Look at that. Farmers to Families. This will take place at the Morris Airport on Friday, June 5th from 10 to 2 p.m. The National Guard will be distributing non-perishable food boxes along with produce, chicken, and dairy products provided by the Abbey Group while supplies last. Anyone is welcome to come pick up food. We will get this posted on the website. I just got this today. And it's an opportunity for those who are struggling with food to pick up some from the state. Well, I'll give Tim, I'll send you a copy of that so you can get it on the website for tomorrow, but that is on June 5th from 10 to 2.
I believe that is already on the website.
Okay, very good. That's really the only thing, and nothing else has changed that dramatically with COVID over the last week. Different things are changing, and that's all available. The impact here, just moving on to town operations, is there's a lot of talk around the state about town offices opening up. What they're opening up to, the consensus is to what we've been doing for the last 2 months, essentially, is people are making appointments for downstairs to see the clerk so that the real estate transactions can continue. Our zoning administrator is working remotely from her house, and permit requests are coming in. I'm scanning up to her, and they're going out. So town hall is functioning. It's just not open to the public. For the collection of the water bills, we've asked people to please mail them in or deposit them in the box downstairs. We also have the ability that they can call and leave a message for the treasurer to set up an appointment if they need to come in person for some reason, but it's very discouraged. It would probably be met outside. The other thing is with meetings, just because this comes up all the time, under some of the directives, they're a little bit confusing because I thought I could actually fit 6 people in our conference room. According to the directives for opening up other areas of conference space, we would only be able to fit 3 people in our conference room because each person requires 200 square feet. So I don't see that changing anytime soon, so I don't see any meetings coming up at Cole Hall anytime soon. Nobody could even have a quorum with 3 people, so we'll be doing this group. That's all I really had for that.
Okay. Any questions? Okay, does that include item 9, town operations update?
Yes. Everything's the same in town. Like I said, as other towns are talking about opening up, it's pretty much opening up to what we've been doing for the last months. So we're in a good position compared to a lot of places in the state.
What's the story on, we're gonna have a roads report or?
Yes.
Okay. I'll
Yes,
wait
we
till
have
then.
quite an extensive one tonight.
Okay, I'll wait till then. Thank you.
All right, item 10 is discussion with the Planning Commission on the expansion of roadside commercial. And I see we have several members of our Planning Commission here. I appreciate y'all being here, appreciate the work you've been doing. We gave you a pretty good to-do list for this year. This is the first one to progress as far as deciding whether or not to move forward with bylaws. By way of background, some of us have been looking at the north end of town, particularly around the Hidden Valley area, at the businesses there. They are all grandfathered in, and it's been brought to our attention that that's somewhat tenuous situation in terms of continued economic activity. So we asked the Planning Commission to look at the general question of expanding roadside commercial north of town, north of where it is now, towards the central to north part of town. The Planning Commission came back and said that they did not recommend that. They recommended instead expanding roadside commercial from the village center south to connect with roadside commercial district in Bennington. The select board was not entirely satisfied with that answer. You didn't give us the answer we wanted. So we have asked you to come back to make sure we understand all your reasoning and see how we might want to proceed from there. Art, you brought this up the last time. Did I correctly paraphrase that? And there's anything that you want to add by way of background?
No, no, I think that does it well. I think if there's anything we've learned in the last 3 or 4 months is that we cannot exist without commerce. We have to have the exchange of money for services just to exist. And so with these businesses grandfathered, what happens is when nothing lasts forever. When they go out of business, and if something isn't taken up within a year that is the exact same thing, that area is lost for more commerce. And we're just concerned that I know that there are some people that want all kinds of business, and there are people that don't want any business at all. So, but somehow I think we've got to find a little bit of common ground.
So in their report back, the Planning Commission listed as reasons for not doing that were that they felt that the state of the area as it is now, which is scenic views on a designated scenic byway with the ability to see farms and surrounding mountains, was where we should be, and expressed a fear that opening up roadside commercial could lead to strip development like we see in Rutland and South Burlington. They also mentioned that existing businesses in that area were ambivalent about a desire to see their grandfathered status converted to an actual roadside commercial. Chris, did I correctly paraphrase the Planning Commission?
Yes, that's largely correct, Tim.
So what I'd suggested in an email that, and I have not heard from the Select Board or the Planning Commission on this, is there something in between that we can make work, between having all residential with grandfathered businesses on one end, and something that looks like Rutland or South Burlington on the other end? And I asked if it's possible to control density of commercial development in, I guess, maybe the same way or a different way that we control residential development. So I throw that out there as a point of discussion for both the Planning Commission and the Select Board.
Well, in our last planning commission meeting, one question kept coming up over and over again, and that was, well, the select board doesn't like our memo. What do they want? I'm waiting.
And I'm suggesting roadside commercial with limited density that would prevent strip development.
Well, from where to where, Tim?
I have not thought about exactly from where to where, but the concern of the Select Board has been for businesses around the Hidden Valley area that if they go, they might not come back. So in general, we're thinking along there, are there places that are appropriate to think about allowing roadside commercial?
Well, I don't think that you'd have a lot of opposition from the planning commission if you wanted to designate that pocket at Hidden Valley Road as a commercial, roadside commercial. We talked about this a great deal. We met with almost all the people involved. The one thing that the stakeholders there said was they felt they had a really good mix of different businesses, and they were afraid that the commercial zoning might overturn that over time. And so that was the basis for their sort of ambivalence to the whole prospect.
Tim, I'm thinking that if we did that, could add your commercial zoning for the area around, Hidden Valley is. And then go north and include North Road out to the railroad. And maybe a quarter mile north of North Road on Route 7.
You mean Old Depot Road or
Yeah,
North Road?
Depot Road, I'm sorry. I don't even know what they call it anymore. Damn it. Well, you'll be at the chocolate barn, and that road on the right is blacktop that goes out to the church out there. To
Home Depot.
to the railroad. And then on Route 7, go maybe another quarter of a mile north of that road.
There's also there's an area from kind of the North Bennington line toward where the stone cutting operation is on Lamb Road. We had kind of tossed that idea around a little bit at the Planning Commission, and that's an area that runs, it has some businesses along it and runs into the kind of urbanized area of North Bennington, if you want to call it that.
Mhm.
Have you heard at all from Mitch Race about that part of Shaftsbury?
Well, I happen to live in that part of Shaftsbury since 1956. No,
Yeah.
I haven't spoken to Mitch.
Because Mitch had talked years ago about revitalizing that part of Shaftsbury, because it was a historic center at one point. And since I guess the church is for sale, you know, it might be, well, supposedly, you know, you get conflicting reports. Carl says, you know, somebody take it off our hands, and Mitch is saying it's not. But anyway, the reality is that, you know, that's a prime area that could be developed into some kind of touristy kind of attraction. You've got the orchard right across the street from the old church, and then you've got Martinkus, you know. So I'm thinking that I don't know, you know, whether Mitch is responding to emails or not, but it might be worth it to get them involved. The Historic Society is fairly active, so maybe they've got some ideas.
Sounds like we're talking about two different places.
Yeah, we are. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
Well, I think I heard consensus on making the area around Hidden Valley roadside commercial. Do I state a true fact?
Are we getting into spot zoning when we start doing this?
It could be argued
That
as
was-
spot zoning.
I'm sorry.
To answer Tim's question, yeah, I think the Planning Commission would work with you on something like that.
You don't consider that spot zoning?
I think it is spot zoning,
Okay.
but it reflects the reality of commerce on the ground.
Yep. The motels, the cabins, Governor's Rock, how is that commercial? That's not commercial now, is it?
That's not zone commercial now, no.
Okay. You've got businesses there too.
What does the Planning Commission feel about extending the commercial zone from Hidden Valley up to Depot Road?
From Hidden Valley to Depot Road, I don't get it. What are you saying, Tim?
Well, you,
It might-
you
is-
involved?
Is my geography messed up? It might be, yeah. What Ken was talking about earlier.
Hidden Valley is now. You go out behind Hidden Valley, get the Depot Road, go all the way up to the railroad tracks, and a quarter of a mile north on Route 7. Make that all one big packet there.
I mean, we're getting kind of back into what the state's been dealing. We've been talking about this for a few years. Well, not that little section, but at one point, a couple of years ago, you guys wanted the entire road from all of Route 7 brought from West Mountain Road all the way north to Arlington to open up for commercial. We sort of discussed that and got back down to the fact that it is a Shires byway and we've got open scenic land, working landscape. We also know there's a lot of people up there that have their property already in. These farms are in with the state as far as land use. I mean, we could talk about it for now, but most of the commercial area that we have right now, it's just like the state wants, it's down in the center of Shaftsbury. So what we're wondering is, with all the acreage and all the available commercial property there is, we've also discussed with Shelley that no one's been in looking for anything. So we don't know where these open, what are we denying people with what currently exists right now? The Chocolate Barn is happy to have things the way it is. It seems as though Clearbrook is. We've discussed the speed coming down that hill. We kind of left it as well. We're not really denying anyone commercial activity in Shaftsbury. It's the entire town of Shaftsbury is owned commercial. It's all in the village, in the center. So again, we're sort of getting out into sort of, it sounds like we're throwing darts at something and saying, wait, why won't this work? But work for what? Where are the people that we're sending away? There are no one's coming. And we just went through the whole town plan, and none of this was discussed for the last year and a half while we were doing the town plan. So you're asking a lot, especially with us talking from our houses, and I don't know, maybe it just seems as though we're sort of like, let's jump back into where we were 2 years ago when we already said the state, ECRC, there's a number of people that do not recommend that sort of expansion that's out into these districts. And all of that is already zoned residential. So again, you're asking people that bought houses out there to say, I hope you guys don't mind, but we're going to change things up a bit on you. And now you're going to have this place next door to you that they didn't buy the property thinking was going to be there. Someone in the center of Shaftsbury, well, that's all commercial. That's what you're going to get when you move to the center of Shaftsbury. The viability of the commercial area that we already have, I'd be wanting to discuss. Like, well, it seems as though we've got commercial, but we don't want to spend the money for a sewer to actually use it. I just don't know where this will go next. If we start saying, fine, let's start spot zoning, we're also including other people. Like I said, there are people around Governor's Rock that bought residential property. There might be commercial activity around there, but again, it's a hotel or motel, and it's rarely occupied. There's not much traffic coming out. You're coming down that hill by the top of the farm, Clearbrook. You're coming down the hill towards Chocolate Barn. I don't view that as a particularly safe job. I'm constantly looking, and we've talked about this the last time. I don't know what problem we're trying to solve when it seems to be commercial opportunities everywhere, from Bennington to Pownell to Williamstown to no one is demanding to come to Shaftsbury that we've seen, and we've been keeping our ear out, and every meeting starts with this. Asking Shelley, is there someone coming that you've turned away? It goes back. I mean, we had the tile people up there by Martinka that the fellow wanted to come in and do windows. He was denied by the previous developmental review board because they didn't like that sort of a country commercial sort of business there. I don't know. It just seems as though we wait every 5 years and all of a sudden everybody wants to sort of upend things. And I don't know where's the impetus? What have we missed? And if we've learned anything, I don't know that the fact that we are saying, well, wait, I have a bone to pick with what Art said before about, wait, if anything we've learned in the last 3 months is that we need commerce. I don't see that. I see what we need is people moving here to pay taxes for property that's basically, there's a lot of residential money coming into town on taxes. So I don't know. I guess we should really be, and I think that more people would be involved maybe if we knew if a lot of people even had internet to be able to attend these meetings. I'm a little hesitant on saying, hell yeah, I've got 2 feet in. Let's open up what's already with calling it spot zoning. These are grandfathered in because they are not meant to be long-term commercial sites. That is what I take for grandfathered property. It's not a viable, it's not what's supposed to be there as far as what the states are doing, at least as far as the shires and BCRC, other examples we can see out there. We've got plenty of commercial property in Bennington no one's coming to. So I need to know where we're going. We've seemed like we've got a long list of things to do from discussing the town plan. We've given ourselves a lot of jobs to do. This was not on that list. This just came up after the town plan was written. So
Okay.
it might be on the top of your list, but this was never part of anything that was discussed during the town plan. So I think we got to, I don't know. I just think that I am not saying that, oh yeah, let's just pocket that little spot by Hidden Valley, make it commercial. Let's go a quarter mile, half mile, a whole mile. I don't know. I just don't see where we're going with this, and it wasn't discussed before, and it's not something I feel comfortable with giving my approval to without really talking and letting these people come to these meetings. And I really don't know where even the Chocolate Barn is settled. I think Mike and Chris can agree. Tom at the Chocolate Barn called, and I'm still having a hard time of people making assumptions about what should be done without really talking to him. And I think he should be here. I'm not sure why he's not. It seemed like he was going to be here. Am I wrong, Chris and Mike, about at least Tom and Sue at the Chocolate Barn wanting to have a say? And like I said, I feel uncomfortable in this format to go forward, and that's my 25 cents there.
To jump in if I could.
Sure, go ahead.
So I've also been thinking about this for a long time now, and my first thought is that the town plan, the first stated goal in the town plan in section 2, the very first bullet point states, develop strategies that will increase economic opportunities while ensuring a vibrant community and healthy physical environment. So I consider this debate to be entirely appropriate within the context of the town plan. It's literally the first bullet point. So it really comes down to me to a philosophical issue as to whether or not Shaftsbury wants commerce in the northern section of town, and if it does, is it willing to recognize that truth on the ground? For whatever reasons, against all odds, commerce did develop in that part of Shaftsbury, in this part of Vermont. Do we want that to vanish and return to residential property like the old Second Chance Animal Shelter did, which has lost its status? It's no longer commercial. When we look at zoning issues, we're supposed to be looking 10, 20, 30, 40 years out. When Research Triangle Park in North Carolina, or the high-tech boom in Albany, or even Malta, New York. Imagine if Malta, New York had said no to Global Foundries and decided to wait for the next revival of dairy farming. I mean, where would they be? So the stage has to be set oftentimes decades in advance of the fruits that you reap from your zoning choices. The fact that some commercial properties have come on the market recently, to me, isn't really relevant to this conversation. That's really more of a DRB issue. That's a present day issue. Zoning looks way out into the future. And, we have seen the loss of some commercial space, again, the Second Chance Animal Shelter. And also, switching gears slightly to the village center designation, it's really, I think we can see from experience that it's not it doesn't incentivize it. It hasn't really worked. Village centers are often areas that were essentially developed 200 years ago, maybe around water or around a crossroad. It might not necessarily be appropriate for modern business. And also, a lot of people who are working through doing the hard work of developing a business plan and developing a business don't have the extra bandwidth to rehab an ancient property that has insufficient access or septic. All of the issues that come with rehabbing a building, that's another job entirely. If you're a local doing the back of the napkin math, trying to get a business plan off the ground, and someone says, "Oh, by the way, why don't you remediate the lead and the asbestos and whatever else is in this 200-year-old behemoth?" I'm thinking of the old country store. I have no idea if those things are in that store. I'm just spitballing there. But so it's just I feel personally that the village center designations are almost a little bit of a joke. It's not realistic. Also, so when we talk about the amount, and personally, I've been thinking of a cluster around Hidden Valley. I've never thought that rezoning the entire 7A corridor was realistic. I'm really talking about maybe what exists in the Hidden Valley cluster, or maybe a slight expansion, whether that's up to Old Depot Road and south to the hotels or whatever it may be. Really a very, very small percentage of the landmass of Shaftsbury. And it is along 7A, which has been a commercial corridor for over 200 years. I mean, it really is. It's how you moved through Vermont for the last couple centuries. It's and Vermont and Bennington and Shaftsbury really does have an industrial and commercial past. If you go all the way back to the 1700s, we were doing iron ore. This is not a farming community necessarily originally. It really was an industrial community going way, way back. And also, one more point on zoning. Zoning was enacted in November of 1980 in Shaftsbury. I was 5 years old then. And so people who are probably, unless I was making real, decisions about my economic future at the age of 5, I'm not really able to participate in economic life in the way that previous generations have been able to participate. I'm just using myself as an example. Assuming someone who was 20 years old 40 years ago, you'd be 60 now. Basically, what I'm trying to say is that there's been we're getting out to probably 3, maybe even 4 generations that have been born post zoning in Shaftsbury. And there's other, everyone knows these generations don't have pensions. We don't have 40-hour work weeks. There's a lot of things we don't have anymore at my age. And one final point is that Vermont, in my opinion, really has done a lot for second homeowners. It's done a lot for people who have a means of income that don't rely on the local economy. And I think the pendulum has swung for going on 50 years now, probably a little over 50 years, in one direction. And I think a small move back toward, some semblance of business friendliness or the commerce that we need to survive. People might not like capitalism, but that's how we make our living in this country. We don't have a choice. It's how we do it here. And we can't, people often don't start businesses because they want to. They start businesses because they have to. And if we take that opportunity away from our Vermonters, again, I'm talking about Vermonters here. I'm not talking about people who are coming from out of state with money, that they can live their rural dream, their rural fantasy. Their rural fantasy is my real life. I'm really unemployed in Vermont right now. And so we just need to strike a balance between the needs of people who came here to employ the dollars they earned elsewhere and live the good life, and people who are born here and have to kind of hack it out with whatever they can generate out of this, frankly, moribund economy. The good times just end. Remember, we were at the end of a very long economic expansion. That's what the good times looked like in southern Bennington County. And now we're going to get a chance to see what the bad times look like. And I think we might need to do what we can to promote business. That's my piece. Thank you.
And good. I'm going to play board meeting. It's all right. See ya.
Wait. Oh, he's back. Okay. Okay. I muted you, Ken. You're unmuted. Well, it sounds like maybe we don't have the consensus that we want across both boards. I'm going to ask, do I have consensus on the select board that we would like to see the area, the Hidden Valley area where we have existing business, zoned roadside commercial, with the look to the future of maintaining that commerce area?
I think that was why we, I mean, I think we're allowed to stay to the zoning, to the planning board. We don't agree with you. That doesn't mean that we're totally opposed to it, but we were just expressing our concern. Our concern was that we're losing commercial places that are already doing business. And if there's a possibility they go out of business, and just like the animal shelter, it goes, we've lost it. That was one of our concerns. And as people are buying houses and land up here sight unseen to get out of the city. When they get here, they're going to want services that they're used to down in the city. And I think not everybody can brew their own cup of coffee in the morning, so they're going to be looking for a Dunkin' Donuts. I'm not saying we're going to have a Dunkin' Donuts on 7A, but that's just an example. People are not going to be happy coming up here and not having some of the services that we have to go to Bennington for. Things are changing.
Mike, are you suggesting a process?
You got two mics.
I'm sorry, Mike Chianowski, are you suggesting a process?
I think that this the planning commission, number one, I would say that my piece that I just spoke about is not the majority on the planning commission. The planning commission's probably heard me speak ad nauseum. They don't want to hear me anymore. But I think that if the select board wants to pin down the corners of the debate, if you will, in terms of, there's a little bit of a fear that people are talking about running roadside commercial from the southern border all the way to the northern border. And in my mind, that was never the case. It was a cluster around the Clearbrook Chocolate Barn, the synergy they have going on there. It's really just a small codifying what's existing on the ground there, and maybe there's been talk of Old Depot Road as a northern boundary. I'm not really sure I don't have a southern boundary in mind, but in my mind, there was never a realistic discussion about running commercial all the way up. So I think if we can eliminate that, there's a little bit of a fear factor about that it's going to be, an open invitation to strip development, which I think we all know would probably take on the order of 300 years at the rate we're going here. But, if we can put aside people's fears that it's a major expansion, it's really a small cluster, around Hidden Valley on 7A. And there is talk of the traffic issue there, and I think that the Department of Transportation might be a little more willing to work on traffic if it were a commercial zone, because right now we say, hey, can you put a light there or flashing signs or lower the speed limit? And they say, well, no, that's a highway through Vermont. That's not a commercial zone. That's just a road, a highway.
Right. So I guess, I'm hearing two points here. One is from Chris that, right now with the parties involved, we're not going anywhere, but you're talking about a process. You're talking about planning with input.
Yeah, I'd love to hear from all the stakeholders. One thing that comes to my mind is that there is no right or wrong answer here. It's, I could argue this either way, honestly, and it is true. There are some recent commercial spaces have opened up. I don't personally think the planning commission is supposed to be, I think the planning commission is supposed to be looking way out, not at current vacant. But the process would be to involve those stakeholders. We didn't get great participation on the first, we talked about this for a good 3 months, it seemed like. So the fact that we're all talking, we have more people on this call right now than have ever been involved in the discussions. So I think it's a discuss. I also don't think there's any particular urgency here. If this took 6 months or a year, it doesn't have to be on a November ballot or a March ballot, or there's no rush, and it shouldn't be rushed. Mike Foley's points are all completely valid points.
Yes.
There's nothing, there's nothing wrong with anything he said, and hopefully there's nothing wrong with anything I said. There's just differences of opinion. I'm a Vermonter who feels like I'd like to see better opportunities for the people. I graduated in MAU in 1994. Tony, you were my principal. And so I think my generation hasn't gotten quite what it could have gotten out of Vermont. And this isn't necessarily this is a problem across rural America, economic opportunity. But I think that we should be proactive and hit it head on, not hide behind fear of dollar stores and the boogeyman of what bad could happen. I mean, if a dollar store opens up, maybe I'll apply for a job. I don't know. Take my unemployed status, maybe I'll be shopping there. Who knows?
Well, what I'm gonna go ahead, Tony.
I'm just thinking, I hear Mike Foley and I hear Mike Chianowski. I think Mike Foley is the common sense person here about the immediacy of what we're dealing with. But Mike Chianowski is also the person who left and came back. And that's the Vermonters we're talking about in the future. And I think Shaftsbury's future involves those, Mike Chianowski's kind of people. We have rural beauty. We have just the bucolic nature of the community, the zoning, all of that evokes people who are looking to reestablish their roots. And I think both Mikes are a combination of what needs to occur. If currently the owners of those commercial businesses don't want to go there, fine. But I also think we need to make them feel comfortable enough to talk about what's it going to be like when they retire. And those people, quite frankly, are within retirement age. And, what is that land and that property going to look like when they leave? I mean, we have a prime example of the animal shelter. We've got a vacant building there, which is basically an eyesore.
And there's no issue with business transferability. If my understanding, as a person who's looked at businesses and purchasing businesses and have friends who are entrepreneurs, my understanding was always that if you would want to avoid purchasing a business that is not zoned, non-conforming, because of whatever various reasons there may be for that. It's something that, if possible, you would want to avoid. So this would alleviate any current business owner of any issues regarding transferability of their business when they do want to go to sell. For instance, if they are approaching retirement age or some unexpected event happens and they're not able to keep their doors open for 12 months in one day, they would lose their asset that they've worked so hard to build.
Yeah.
All right, let me suggest something as a way to move forward. I think, at least on the select board, I believe I have consensus that we'd like to see the existing de facto commercial area around Hidden Valley. We'd like to see that enshrined in zoning as roadside commercial. I think we probably have a consensus on the select board that we would want to extend that up toward Old Depot Road. But we haven't fleshed that out thoroughly yet. The way this process works, if the select board wants the planning commission to do something that they don't want to do, the select board has the power to direct them to do it. Also, just as an aside, the citizens have the ability to direct the planning commission to do something by petition. The the select board can direct the planning commission to do something, establish a roadside commercial zone, say at the Hidden Valley area. The planning commission then is required to review it only for technical and legal goodness, to make sure we're not doing something that can't be done or cannot legally be done. And then it goes forward through the hearings and voting process. I'm going to suggest that the select board think about if we want to direct the planning commission to zone Hidden Valley only or Hidden Valley plus some. And then we come back, provide our decision to the planning commission. If it's something they want to discuss among themselves, we would welcome that. If it's not, then we would proceed to direct them to do it and provide technical and legal advice on it. What do you think about that?
Tim, I guess
I
I'd
didn't
like
hear anything about extension of the roadside commercial to the south to the Bennington Shaftsbury town line. Is that being thrown out?
I think not. Let's go to Art.
I guess there's a reason that we have a planning commission. And we really should listen to what they have to say. It doesn't make much sense to throw the recommendation of the planning commission out the window. That's not what I suggested. I just said I didn't agree with it. So and it sounds to me like the planning commission is not 100% behind what they sent to us, that Michael Chianowski doesn't quite agree with it. So I would like to send it back to the planning commission and see if they can at least become 100% behind it. Yes, we aren't throwing anything out. There's a lot of concern about lost businesses. And so I'd like to see them hash it out some more. And there's no big hurry. And going to the south, no problem with that, but there's no land that really could be developed. I would like the planning commission to look at it again, please.
Well, if I could put words in the planning commission's mouth, I believe what they came back to us with is the roadside commercial to the south, which the select board has not shown a lot of enthusiasm for. I don't think we have rejected it yet.
No.
What I think the select board is wanting is roadside commercial around Hidden Valley, where we have businesses now. The Planning Commission has rejected that as a body.
If you look at what we've got right now, actually we've got spot zoning already. Because you got Tam up there, he's ready all by himself for commercial out there. And what would that plant in Arlington,
Back molding?
back molding, what would a back molding plant do for the tax? Shaftsbury. And where's their place? They're gonna have to put that, other than right there.
That's actually an industrial zone back there, I think, and there is some there are industrial lots, I believe, available. I'm not sure who owns them. It is true that if you look at the zoning map, and if you want to talk about spot zoning, you can look at the zoning map and you can kind of tell who was at the table in 1980. So it's some of those lots, even though they're commercial or industrial, or the industrial commercial zone or the industrial 1 and 2 zones are mostly already owned, I believe. They're privately held.
Well, somewhere I saw that a family moves in the town, and they buy a house, they got 3 kids, they're costing, can't remember the figure now, but it costs like 2 times in tax. So therefore, I think if we should do everything we can to get more, whatever, commercial, industrial, something in this town.
I think it's worth noting that capitalism in general really only works when it's expanding. It doesn't work in contraction. It just doesn't function that way. So what Ken's saying, I think, is how do you make it better going forward? How do you make your tax burden less? Again, I understand maybe some people don't agree with, maybe they wish there was a different system, but capitalism is the system we have here in America, and it really only works under an expanding model.
Well, if I could say, obviously we live in capitalism, Mike. It's not like anyone here is not talking. It's not a dreamland, but what goes up against that is zoning. That's the point. You can't just have capitalism. The point is there's a lot of people out there with a vested interest in their properties, where they live, who their neighbors are. And to say that people don't like capitalism or whatever, you're sort of edging around the fact that people have to realize that capitalism, we need it. Of course we do. But there's a reason for zoning. That's all I'm saying is spot zoning is one thing. Talking to the people at Hidden Valley, discussing it logically, objectively, sure. But to sort of, and we did, so we can go back and make sure we all understand. There was a discussion about 2 years ago that we wanted roadside commercial opened up from West Mountain Road up to the Arlington Town line. That was not hypothetical. That was something we were tasked with.
That's why I made an effort to put that to bed today. We want to put that to bed. That's not.
Right, I understand that, but it's not a dream. That did happen. And now we're sort of looking at another space to say, well, people want to make sure they can get coffee at a dump. I think that's the point of having zoning. Not everyone wants the possibility of a Dunkin' Donuts right next door to their rural residential zoned property.
Right, but
I'm going to interrupt here. I think I don't want to get too philosophical. I was trying to steer it to something concrete. I don't think I have consensus on that yet. So unless someone has a motion, unless one of the select board members has a motion they want to make on the subject, I'm going to suggest we all think about this topic some more and come back and see if we can decide what we want to actually do at our next meeting. Any objection to that?
No objection. This has clarified quite a few things just in this discussion here in terms of what your goal is. So let us take that back to the planning commission, and you can see we have a diversity of opinion on our board, and beat this thing around a couple of ways and see what we come back with.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you, Chris and Mike. It was a good discussion, and I think we all have a better idea of where we all stand, and I bet we can come up with something that a majority can support at least.
I really appreciate what the planning board, the time you put into it. Seriously. Yep.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Well, yeah, thank you for your input.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to move on to item 11, a little bit of housekeeping on the Communication Union District. Michael Corey, relatively new to Shaftsbury, up on Ridge Road with a poor internet connection, is reached out to me, is interested in helping out with the CUD effort, and has asked to be appointed as an alternate rep to the CUD. And so I'm going to ask for a motion to appoint him as a rep to the CUD. let me bring this up and show you what we did before, the form that we, or the document that we used before. So this document establishes that the CUD has been voted on, that the town supports the CUD, and I'm just, for my own record keeping on the CUD list, Tim Scoggins as representative, and the two alternates, James Salerno and Michael Corey. So I would be looking for a motion to approve a resolution approving the formation of the Southern Vermont Communications Union District and appointing a representative to the governing board thereof.
So moved.
Moved by Art, seconded by Tony. Any discussion? All in favor? Let's see. The question is, do we approve the resolution, the aforementioned resolution? Ken?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Tony?
Yes.
Tim votes yes, so that resolution is approved by a vote of 4-0-0. Thank you, gentlemen. And that takes us to DPW report. And I know we have Mike Yanati out there. And David Kiernan's back.
Mike, you want to start giving an update on the roads?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. I thought I hit the wrong button.
Mike, if you can just give an update on the roads.
I think you might hit the mute button again.
Sorry, yeah, I think the new button was hit. What's going on the roads are, we've just been doing regular maintenance, grading, ditching, some tree work, and just routine stuff, culvert cleaning, a lot of sign replacement. We've had a lot of knockdown signs. Seems like at least 2 or 3 every week. But for the most part, it's just regular routine maintenance, spring maintenance right now, mowing the parks, and dealing with upcoming issues as well. I don't really have a whole lot to say there. The next road we'll be spending a lot of time on is probably going to be Murphy Hill. We're going to be doing a lot of ditching and some culverts and some drainage on Murphy Hill. And for the most part, everything's pretty well graded up. We seem to be in pretty good shape for grading, so we'll be just keeping on top of that as needed throughout the summer and so on. Do you guys have any questions or any comments or anything you'd like to see done or anything for me?
Mike, I got a question.
Yeah.
At the Orchard Road, where that bank has been sliding out,
Yeah.
the state been down there to look at that.
They were a while ago, but me and David, we were going to talk about that tonight. We've decided to go a different route with that, and Dave has some information about what we're going to suggest there.
Well, and what I'm wondering, has anybody gone down to, if you're headed toward North Bennington, and down over that slope to the right, to see if the bottom of that slope is moving?
I walked down there last fall with 2 state engineers, and the river is actually really far away from the road, and the farther you walk down over the bank, the better it is. It's really up close to the road, whatever's happening.
And that's kind of what I thought, Mike, but because that brook down there is probably, what, 100 feet from that road?
It's all of that, if not more. I thought it was closer, but it's at least 100 plus
Yeah,
feet.
well, that was when, because when I had problems with it, when we fixed it, it was the toe of that slope down there. It was going out.
Yeah, and that's usually where it starts, is at the toe. So we hiked down there this fall when all the vegetation was low, and
Yeah.
that's not the problem. It's up top. It's closer to the road. I mean, it's probably about 50 feet down, I would say, from the road is probably the problem. 40.
Yeah, I
That area.
agree with that, yeah.
The problem is getting people, the right person from the state to come down and do it. I just don't think we have time for that. I think we have to take a different approach on some sort of design for the correct fix, because it's not going to be long where that's going to need another Band-Aid of asphalt again, just to make the traveling public safe when they drive up through there.
Yeah, well, the state would still make that out, right?
They will, but they're so far behind that the people that do that they can't give me a time frame of when they would be able to be down here.
Well, are you gonna drill that first? Big core sections?
That's what I was trying to do, but I think we're going to have to pay an engineering firm to drill it. Something.
Well, yeah, I wouldn't do it without drilling it.
No, I wouldn't either.
Because I think right there, if it's not the brook that's doing it, I think you've got a layer with two different kinds of clay. And the top layer is sliding in the bottom one.
Yeah, it's got to be something like that. It definitely needs to be drilled and bored.
Yeah.
To figure out what is down there for soils anyways, before any engineer that would design something for that would have to do borings anyways.
Oh, yeah, but that's been going on for, Jesus Christ, 50 years.
Yeah, now it's time to fix it.
How about,
Mike, if we can get on to why this is on the agenda.
Yeah.
Art is trying to get a comment in here.
I just wanted to tell Mike that I think the roads are the best I've seen them in a long, long time. And whatever you're doing, combination of a lot of things, keep it up, okay? Was wondering about mowing. Do we have to wait until July 1st to start mowing, or is there money for that, or what? And are we having a contractor do it, or are we doing it all ourselves?
Hosley will be starting July 1st because of our budget for mowing. He's going to do all the mowing, but as of today, I have our old John Deere out there right now doing some bad spots. So you'll see the old John Deere just knocking down some of the high spots. But I talked to Hosley this morning, and he's going to be with us on the 1st.
Okay. Are you looking at renting a machine for later on in the summer?
Yeah, in the fall, I have one booked for the whole month of September, and just we did last year, we're going to do it ourselves again. I think we did a nice job keeping it back, and if we keep doing this, I think we'll be able to keep up with it.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you for the comment. The guys are really working hard, and
Yes, they are.
just got to keep on them, that's all.
It shows. It's very good. Excellent.
Thank you,
I
guys.
agree.
All right, Dave, what were you trying to get us to do?
Yeah, back onto the White Creek. The reason this is even on here is because Mike and I have been discussing the need for a true fix to the entire road, which brings in a lot of what Ken was saying about borings. What's really underneath the road that's causing this? We can do a lot of Band-Aids, or we can try and get waiting for the state, Mike is right, is going to take a long time because they're very backed up. What we're proposing is to put out an RFP for engineers to design a real true fix for this road. in anticipation of at some point, there's going to be federal money involved for infrastructure. This is a connecting road between New York State and Vermont, used by a lot of commuters. I think it would be a prime target to get federal money. Mike's telling me that this could be, to be done completely right, could be a couple $100,000 project. So when it comes time, if the money becomes available, like it has in past instances for economic stimulus, that shovel-ready projects are going to be the ones that get funded. So one way or the other, we have to fix this road. So I would like to take some of the money coming up from the Class 3 road fund starting next year, and not the Class 3, sorry, the paving, and hire an engineer to give us a true evaluation of what is wrong with this road and why it keeps dipping, and how do we actually fix it, which might be quite elaborate, but if we can get federal money under any kind of infrastructure grant, we would be ready to go with the plans. And we can always scale them back if we have to deal with a state grant, which will be far less than we get from the feds. So everything Ken's saying is right, and Mike's saying is right. That's why we want to move ahead with trying to generate a true fix and be ready to apply for any funds that become available. It's the same thinking as why we moved ahead with the water project, trying to get that plan ready, just in case infrastructure money becomes available. We'll be ready with a document in hand to go for the money.
Did you realize how many places are sliding off the edge of that road is sliding? I mean, all the way to the state line. It's not good at all. Are you talking about just one or two places, or are you going to look at the whole road?
I think we have to put out an RFP to see what kind of cost level we're looking at, because this isn't committing us to anything. It's like evaluating with Mike, seeing what the largest sections are in the part of Shaftsbury that need to be looked at, and we should look at it in totality. Especially past Rowan, it's not been paved. It wasn't part of that last paving project. So before we pave and have to dig the whole thing up, let's figure out what's wrong with it.
Yeah, you go past Cold Spring Road and kind of get into the woods there, and the brick house on the left, the road in a truck, you feel like you're going to tip right over. It drops right off so much into the swamp. There's a lot of areas on that road that are breaking up bad.
Yeah. And that's why, in talking this over with Mike, I think it's time to get a real evaluation of what needs to be done. And like I said, hopefully there'll be, as there has been in the past, stimulus money for infrastructure. And like I said, if you're ready to go, the people first in line are going to get the money.
Okay, good idea.
Dave, do you have any idea what an engineering report on that road might cost?
No, which is why we want to start, get the RFP out and see what we're looking at. Because it's the same thing, this will come up in the Cole Hall discussion later, is both projects need to be done. So let's get the RFPs out, get some real estimates in here, and then the board can decide which way we're going with it. But right now, it could be 10, 15, 20, you could go along. I know I did some boring out there 6 years ago, and it was nearly 2,000 for one borehole. So it's going to be kind of up in the air, but these are the things we need to find out. In fact, that's why we want to get the Shaftsbury Hollow Bridge bid documents out, because we need those to come in to see under the new structure, which Mike can explain just how much money we're talking about. Because the state only gave us $175,000 for the project, which we assume is still funded. But we need to have today's numbers to decide how to go forward. Because the original numbers are really no longer valid, as Mike can explain, because they're making us change the original concept.
Yeah, so for the Shaftsbury Hollow hideout culvert, that was...
Before we leave that, let me see if somebody wants to make a motion to instruct Dave to generate a request for proposal for an engineering study of the problems on White Creek Road.
So moved.
Moved by Ken,
Second.
second by Art. Any more discussion?
I just want an understanding that's going to be the whole length of White Creek Road, all the way to the state line.
Okay.
Is that right? Okay.
That's fine, Art. There's two spots that I already have fixes for that are closer to the river, but I know where you're talking out through there. That's fine.
Okay, yep.
Any other discussion? The question is, do we instruct Dave to generate a request for a proposal for an engineering report on the problems of White Creek Road from the vicinity of Rawlin Road back to the state line? Ken?
Yes,
Art?
Yes,
Tony?
Yes,
Tim votes yes. So that motion is agreed to 4-0-0. Okay, Mike. Shaftsbury Hollow.
So now the Shaftsbury Hollow, the highway department was received a grant two years ago. We have an extension to complete that grant. And back when you guys approved the documents for the grant, it was supposed to be a slip line. Agency of Natural Resources is not letting us slip line that culvert. It's reducing the size of the flow and all the requirements to meet a 100-year flood and so forth. So what we've decided to do is to put the bridge out to bid for a contractor to have a engineered stamped plan to meet the hydraulic study for the bridge. And I think it's supposed to be like a 7-foot by 26-foot span. And the hydraulic study it explains everything in the report that I wrote up that we would put out there for contractors to bid. And what this would do is each contractor would get the plans and it would be stamped by an engineer, whether it was an aluminum box or a concrete box and a bridge, and they would have to deal with the road temporary access and diverting the water and so forth. So, and they would give us the pricing too. So the pricing could range from $100,000 to $500,000. The town of Windhall did this for a similar project. This is where I got the idea from. Was the town of Windhall did this, and they received bids for a similar culvert. It was a structures grant through VTrans, and they had contractors from $100,000 to $1 million, and they were able to come to an agreement like in the 200,000s for the adequate structure for that. So that's where we're at with this. We want to put this out to bid and see what we get back to see if this is going to be the right approach, if we are going to be able to do this within funding. Did I say that all right, Dave? That's all we talked, right?
I think that's about it. The real question is, with the new design, what's the new price going to be? And
Yeah.
given the environment we're in now, economically, we need new real numbers. And again, the only way to get that is to get some people's bids on our table here. See what it's going to turn out to be. We can fund it up to a certain extent, given things stay the way they are, or even if they get a little worse. But we need to know what we're looking at so we can make a decision by the beginning of August, because then they would have to the end of 21 to construct this project. If it turns out that it's too much for us even to award, then we'll have to ask the state for another extension of this grant. But we don't know, like Mike said, it could be 100, could be 200, could be $1 million. We need to get a hard number on here because everything's changed from when this was originally done.
This kind of feels like back to square one to me. That
Sure
we did this 3 or 4 years ago, and we let time pass, and the rules changed, and now we've got to do it again. Is that a fair assessment?
Well, the original design, if it had been funded back, and it was about 4 years ago, probably would have gone through. But in the time that's gone by, A&R has changed their feelings towards it. And when we were finally awarded the money last year, they said that, they had this whole new plan come up. Because our original stuff had 3 years had gone by, so they had to look at it again. And now they want this whole bridge thing, which it's going to change the cost structure may change the cost structure to us substantially. But again, we're back to We need to get this out to bid. The way Mike's talking about doing it is good because it's going right to the contractor. The whole thing, there's all kinds of ways you can do this. We just need to get some of them on the table here so we can decide what the final price is. It is unfortunate because this might have even been 5 years ago when we did this, but we never got the funding. We kept getting turned down for the grant. So the cost has changed and times have changed, and A&R now says it has to be bigger. And I mean, short of fighting them for a smaller project, the lifespan of that bridge only has 3 or 4 left in it, I think. So I think we need to know what the options are. And right now, we don't know the cost of this thing.
Okay.
So we don't think we have any hope of going to A&R with the grant we've got now and the plans we have now and saying, okay, great, we're ready to do it.
They've said no.
Yeah, when I had a meeting out there with them, and just because before I can put it out to bid to slip line it, because that's what the grant was awarded for, you have to, if you read in the grant paperwork, you have to have a pre-meeting with A&R, and when I went out there, things seemed to change, and we cannot slip line it at this time. So that's why we decided to go with this approach.
Mike, did they look back at what they considered that Hurricane Irene for under near flood or what?
Yeah, we talked about how it didn't overtop, and they just seemed to, that doesn't matter. It doesn't meet their models in the flood plain and all the things they do now on the computer to see what would happen if we got another Irene. Now they're saying it would overtop. So there's no change in his mind to slip lining it. That's out of this.
Well, no, I know. They don't even know what a game it is, so.
That game's still standing.
Tim, are you looking for a motion?
Sure.
Okay, I think we've got to do it. So I make the motion, we do an RFP for the bridge in Shaftsbury Hollow.
Okay.
So is that we're starting over, basically.
Yes.
We're doing an engineering study of the
Yes.
bridge in
No,
Shaftsbury Hollow.
It's building. The original documents that we have from Mance, the contractor will get, but this is construction. This is the final product. It's just we're doing another option than what the board originally approved. We just can't do the slip line. Everything else is pretty much the same.
We're putting it on the
Same.
contractor to get an engineered stamped plans for the correct design for the adequate structure. To meet the study.
Okay, so we're not gonna be deciding between. Well, I guess we will be, but we're looking for something harder than what we had before.
We are specifically asking for one product.
Yeah.
And not asking for alternates. This is what's going to be built. This is what will satisfy A&R.
Okay.
So we're looking for the real construction engineered stamped plans, and that's what we will build.
All right, can you help me with the wording of the motion? What is it you want, Mike or Dave?
No, I think Mike's better at that. Go ahead, Mike.
How would we say that?
Well, actually, I guess what you're just asking for is for
Yeah.
an RFP to be produced for the replacement of the Shaftsbury Hollow Bridge.
Yeah,
And
that's it.
that's pretty much it.
Okay, so if Ken and Art are comfortable, the motion reads, instruct Dave to generate an RFP for repair of the Shaftsbury Hollow Bridge.
Replacement.
Replacement.
Replacement of
Yes.
replacement of the Shaftsbury Hollow Bridge.
Well,
Yes, I got it.
Now, wait a minute, you're calling it a bridge. I think we ought to ask him for either a culvert or a bridge. 'Cause
Well,
a bridge might be cheap.
liberal.
I think it's considered a bridge.
Yeah, and the actual RFP is in the Dropbox. That's exactly what's going out if it's approved.
Okay, do we, yeah, we're gonna wanna see that again before we, send it out. This is instructing you to generate it. You're saying it's already generated?
Yeah, it's already in the Dropbox, what we want to send out.
Oh, okay, okay. Then we don't need to instruct you to generate an RFP. We need to approve that RFP.
Just approve that it's sent out, yeah.
I certainly don't remember what that says exactly. Describe it to us. What we've been saying is that it's going to be to generate plans for construction
Yes.
of a
hold
new
on.
bridge.
Let me bring it up here. Give me 1 second to bring it back up. One second, it's loading. So request for proposals, Shaftsbury Hollow Culvert Project. The town of Shaftsbury is seeking proposals for the design and installation of a culvert to replace an existing culvert located on Shaftsbury Hollow Road within the town of Shaftsbury. And that goes into multiple dimensions of what is there, the required responses, and all our standard stuff. It includes all the hydrologic studies from the state, from the hydraulics unit, and it's basically for people who do this, they'll understand it and they will come up with a design for the new culvert. Because Ken's right, maybe calling it a bridge is not correct here, but it's really the redesign of the culvert and installation. It's everything, which is what we didn't have 5 years ago because Chris never did, building, actual construction design, even for the slip line.
I'm just wondering, Dave, should we ask that for a culvert or a bridge? Because it might be cheaper to build a bridge.
Well, I think we'll get all that as they look at it, because there's a pre-bid meeting where the companies will come up and alternates are always allowed, and it's in there that alternates can be suggested. But again, this is why we have to get this going. We need people who are going to build it to start coming up with real world numbers and real world proposals here.
Mike,
Yeah,
I have a question.
okay.
If you or anybody going to a road that goes over from the East Road back to that Horton Hill. Got it for Brave Trees tonight. Holy Smoke Road.
Where am I? Holy smoke. Yeah, that's fine.
Anybody down over to walk through that culvert down there?
Yeah, when you told me about it a couple of months ago, me and Eric went and looked at it. That's in beautiful shape.
Okay.
Need some brush.
I'd ask you before, but I just thought of it.
Yeah, and needs a little brush cutting on the inlet and the outlet, but otherwise the culvert itself's in great shape.
All right, we have lost Art. Art, are you there?
Yes,
Art. I think Art dropped off. I think he was. Do you have more stuff to talk about here, road guys?
Yeah, we can move on to the park now.
Okay, we're in the middle of a motion. I'm going to ask for a motion to postpone the vote on this until Art gets back.
Okay, I'm here.
Oh, okay, you're back. Okay. We are ready to vote, Art, on the question of issuing the request for a proposal for
Yeah.
construction of the new Shaftsbury Hollow culvert is the way it reads in the RFP that has already been generated.
Okay, then, yes,
Okay,
that's fine.
so, all right, we're ready to vote.
Yeah.
Okay, so on the question, Ken,
Yes,
Tony,
Yes.
Art,
Yes,
Tim votes yes. So by a vote of 4-0-0, we agreed to issue the RFP for construction of the Shaftsbury Hollow culvert. All right, go on.
Okay, do I just two other paperwork things, COVID delayed here. The certificate of compliance for town road and bridge standards, the annual thing the board has to approve. Copies were sent over. There's no way for everyone to sign these, so we just need a vote that Tim can sign to certify compliance before town and road bridge standards and network inventory, which we have.
Okay, I don't remember seeing it, but I'm comfortable having remembered it before. So is there a motion to certify that the town of Shaftsbury complies with road and bridge standards, and what was the other part?
Network inventory.
And network inventory. It provides a network inventory?
Excuse me?
What about a network inventory?
It's just stating that we have it, and we just did this last year with the culvert inventory and that from BCRC.
Okay.
and I
I need
make
a motion.
then I make that motion with the this, and that Tim be the person that signs it.
Okay, let it so read.
okay,
Second by Ken. Any more discussion? The question is, do we certify the Shaftsbury abides by road and bridge standards and the network inventory and allowing the chair to sign the document? Ken,
yes,
Tony,
Yes.
Art,
Yes,
Tim votes yes, so that motion is agreed to 4-0-0.
Okay. The next one would be the annual financial plan for town highways. It just basically states we do this every year too, that we will be spending 1.335 million on the town highways this year. And some of that is we get 84,734 from the state for class 2 and 79,415 for class 3 roads from the state. And again, this is just signed by prior vote. Tim is allowed to sign these after the board votes for them.
Okay, give me a motion again.
A motion to approve the annual financial plan for town highways. It's grant forms we need to send in to the state.
Is there a motion to approve the financial plan for town highways and allow the chair to sign it?
so moved,
Moved by Ken,
second.
second by Art. Any more discussion? Question is, do we approve the or certify the town financial plan? Ken,
yes,
Tony,
Yes.
Art,
Yes,
Tim votes yes, so that motion is approved 4-0-0.
Okay. In the Dropbox, I placed a picture of the sign that the rec committee as approved for Howard Park. We have a price for that. The whole project will be about $2,000. And we've been discussing this at the rec committee for quite a while. So just want the board's review of it. And this does not come out of our budget. This will come out of reserve funds and a bequest for improvements to Howard Park. That's held by the Board of Trustees.
Oh, this is not the right thing, is it?
No, but we can do this one first if you would like.
No, I saw concept of design and thought that was it. I don't see a Howard Park in the Dropbox.
Yeah, it should be right next to Walt Disney there.
Oh, I'm in the wrong folder. There it is. Yes.
Yeah.
I like it except for the cardboard cutout of Walt Disney.
I'd like Dave to be in that.
I thought Walt had a bit of class to it, but we went back and forth on the sign, and this is what the committee would like, and it's actually a very nice sign. It will look worlds better than the sign that is there right now.
So you need us to approve the sign design?
If the board doesn't object, we can just go ahead and the rec committee can order it because it's under $2,000. So, but I want to
Okay.
make sure the board saw it before we plop the new sign down there on you.
All right, without objection? All right.
If the committee approved it, it's okay with us.
Yep.
Yes, indeed.
All right, then we will go ahead and do that, and I'll probably be up in a couple months, depending on how busy he is. And then the next one is, what's the next one? Oh, drainage improvements to Howard Park, which also is not a budget item. It will come out of current reserve funds and any bequest that the Board of Trustees has for designated for Howard Park. This came up at a municipal road general permit. The drainage in Howard Park, as many people know, is horrendous. And it needs to be fixed to go along with the state permit. We had preliminary 30% engineering drawings, and this is a matter of just putting this out to bid, doing an RFP and putting this out to bid. Then we will see the actual cost because they can vary widely on this too. But it'll be anywhere. It'll be over $20,000 to fix all these things. Because it takes care of drainage in the parking lot, in the field, behind the tennis courts. There's so many areas here. There's the swale between where the baseball field is and the soccer fields, which turns marshy all the time. It's really supposed to drain all the way out to the wood line opposite where the little bridge is now. So, like I said, we received these 30% details from the State Municipal Road General Permit, and we can use these to get a bid and put out an RFP to get this project going.
So we need a motion to issue an RFP to correct drainage problems at Howard Park.
Correct.
Is that an open drain, Dave? Or is it gonna be a culverts under the road?
It's going to be everything, Ken. It's going to be from the swale to on the corner at the bottom of the driveway when you come in. There's going to be a sediment trap, and there is a culvert under the road there. There's different types of drainage, grass infiltration features that'll go in, swales for pre-treatment over by the tennis courts, armoring and eroded flow path along the tennis court. There's quite a number of little projects involved in this.
I think you really ought to bury as much of that as you can. Because that open ditch up there is gonna be really hard to maintain.
You're talking about the swale over by the soccer field?
Yeah,
Yeah. Let me see here.
it's when the leaves get out every fall it's gonna add a little more.
This does not call for a culvert along there because it drains into it. The soccer field swale actually, the soccer field portions of it drain into it naturally along the grass lines. Yeah,
If there's any way to, if they get the grade to bury it, they really ought to.
there is one culvert at the base of the soccer field swale,
Yeah,
and it's covered with 2 minus stone is what they're suggesting installing here. So there would be a culvert down there, a small one.
well, it's just like I say, if it's, I don't think you've got more than a quarter of an inch pitch out through there.
Yeah.
It's a long ways to go. Leave an open ditch like that, try to maintain it.
Yeah, they are talking about a culvert cover here of the stone.
Dave, can I interrupt?
Yeah.
Ken, most of that ditch that they're talking about, that pretty sure that calls for one of those infiltration sediment traps that infiltrate into the ground before it drains out into, like a big ditch down through both them swales of the soccer field and stuff. I'd have to look at it again. It's not right in front of me, but
Yeah,
I don't
well, it's just,
worry
I don't
about-
know I don't know how one of them work there, Mike. The ground ain't very good down there.
what's that?
Ground is not very good for drainage down there.
Yeah, it's all excavated and put in the correct soils to infiltrate the water. They work pretty well, actually. When we went up there and looked at Howard Park, the engineer was talking about how they work and the right soils that need to be used and such and such.
Okay, good word for it, buddy.
We're also talking about building a wetland. Is that green area at the top of the screen? That would be a constructed wetland, 27 square feet, to help with the absorption of this water through there.
Yeah, what it was, Dave. It was a wetland. That it was going to be a built wetland out of a ditch all the way out into the wood line like it is right now.
Yeah.
Or it doesn't drain anywhere because there's no pitch.
Yes.
Yes.
So, we've got a wetland there now that we don't want. How does this help?
So what's happened now is the wetland that's there is so full of settlement, it's not really doing what it should. This new wetland will actually drain the water so that it's getting bigger. So like right now, the wetland that we have is growing. It's growing into the soccer field. With a new designed wetland, the water, it'll take the water in.
Shut that
Not expand into the fields.
Okay.
There's a stream and a well overflow that all feed into that right now. And I don't know if you've been up there in a while, but it's taken over pretty much.
No, let's take a screenshot. Why isn't my picture?
Can I TV?
Yeah, no, I'm all set.
We see you, Art.
Thank you.
He's back.
It was froze up.
Okay, yeah, we see you. We hear you. Okay, so the question is to issue the RFP for
Drainage improvements, Howard Park.
drainage improvements at Howard Park. Thank you. Any more discussion on that? So the question, Ken,
Yes,
Tony,
Yes.
Art,
Yes.
Tim votes yes. So that motion is agreed to 4-0-0.
Okay. Michael, unless you have something else, that's all I had on the DPW.
That's all I have. That's it.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for
Two
joining,
minute road
joining
break.
us.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, just in case we run out of stamina, you want to go back and catch the warrant?
Oh, yeah.
We better pay our bills first.
Yeah. Okay, so I have check warrant number 31, and the total amount is $44,431.35. I need a motion.
So moved.
Moved by Tony,
Second by Art.
second by Art. Major items I see are Bennington County Sheriff for $2,000, Dufresne Group for $2,400. That is our water department engineer. Is that correct? This
Yes.
must be for something else, though.
No, that's the final payment.
Okay. Okay. 3,500 to Innovative Surface Solutions, our chloride people.
Mhm.
2,100 to Sycamore Landscaping, and 29,000 to VLC Property and Casualty for our annual insurance,
Yes, that's
semi-annual insurance premium.
Yep.
I also see $400 to GABO Fuels, and $350 to Northeast Plumbing and Heating. I don't recognize that one.
Northeast services all the plumbing equipment and water purification systems at Howard Park. Even though we don't
Okay.
have it open, it's mandated by our operating permit that it be serviced and open by May.
Any other discussion on check warrant? Okay, the question is, do we approve check warrant 31? Ken,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Art,
Yes.
Tim votes yes. So check warrant 31 in the amount of $44,431.35 is approved 400. Okay. Dave, it's 8:30. We've been at it since 6. Do you think we might forego the policy, any more policy discussions?
Yeah, we can skip over those. We can even skip over Cole Hall because that's not anything critical. 14 and 18 are the ones we really need to do.
Okay, 14, proposal to waive new transfer station permits for 6 months. What's your thinking there?
Yeah, well, financially, it's not a great burden to the town. It's $20 permit right now. We would have difficulty selling them under the current restrictions on personal sales. We normally do this face-to-face right on the lot there. The feeling was that just as we held off raising or doubling the per bag rate, we would just hold this for 6 months to see where everything is. We can revisit it in December, and if things have improved, we could charge half-year rate or just, waive it for the year. The current stickers would still be valid. If anyone new comes in and needs a brand new sticker because they just moved here, we would sell them one of those for the year. But Melanie and I were discussing the not huge amount of revenue it generates, and thought maybe perhaps, given the difficulty in selling them and the current situation, we would just waive it for 6 months and see where we are then.
Okay, my only question is, do we want to waive it for 6 months or for the whole year?
It's financially, it's not that much to us. Without doubling the per bag, the access permits don't amount to much. So we're not going to double the price per bag this year. We'll put that off for a year, so I don't really see a problem even doing this for a year.
Yeah, otherwise we'd be looking at selling access permits in December,
Yeah, pretty much.
which is not going to be a treat either. And we're probably going to be in another middle of another wave. I suggest a motion to waive transfer station access permit renewals and new permits for 1 year.
So moved.
What are we gonna charge somebody that comes into town and wants one for the first time?
We would still charge the $20 as before. We'll
Okay.
just wait for the people who already have them.
Yep, okay. As long as
The
we
motion is made by Ken.
Yes.
I need a second.
I'll second.
Seconded by Art. Yeah, so this is all about just the social distancing problems of selling permits. So,
Yeah.
Any other discussion? Okay, the question is, do we forego renewals of transfer station permits for 1 year? Ken?
Yeah.
Tony?
Yes.
Art?
Yes.
Tim votes yes, so that motion is agreed to 4-0-0.
I only have one thing under other business. I'll be talking to Ricky Harrington about renewing the MOU between Shaftsbury and Glastonbury, so we can have it ready for the next meeting. I don't anticipate any changes. It hasn't changed in a long, long time. But that'll be the only thing under other business for me.
Does anybody else have anything?
Yeah, I was thinking about, does the town of Shaftsbury want to enact anything on the using a mask in public places? The state says that it's recommended, but it's leaving it up to individual towns. Do we want to do something or let it go?
My thought is we have very little retail here. I was thinking that we probably would not, but I'd like to hear from the other selectmen.
They all wear masks out to follow them anyway. You've got a state guideline. I think people just get confused if we try to change it.
Okay.
Tony?
Yeah, I don't think, there's no way to enforce it, so,
Yes.
yeah, I don't see any reason for it. And, I think people are 50-50.
Okay.
Yeah, I guess the only reason, talking against myself here a little bit, but the only reason to consider it, I think, would be if it would help the few retailers that we have in enforcing a policy of requiring masks. But again, we don't have any enforcement capability.
Yeah.
Okay, do we, I guess the answer there is we're not inclined to do that.
We'll table it,
Yeah.
okay?
We'll just let it go without action.
Yep.
Okay. Unless anybody has anything else, that takes us to our review of action items, which are mostly RFPs for Dave on White Creek Road, on Shaftsbury Hollow, on Howard Park drainage. And I guess an action item would be to revisit the Cole Hall question at our next meeting. And I believe that's all we skipped.
Mm-hmm.
All right, and then we need to go into executive session to discuss a personnel issue. Do we have a motion?
So move.
Moved by Ken,
Second.
seconded by Tony. Do we go into executive session? Ken,
Yes.
Tony,
Yes.
Art,
Yes.
Tim votes yes. So we will move into executive session. We will ask the other callers to hang up, and then we will do that. And I'm going to end recording.